Everyone in the galaxy was on their side on that day, the day of the attack. The day when the tyrannic leaders of the population of their moon, Chal, decided to strike the planet. Unprovoked, spontaneous, no warning. We mourned their losses. It was said to be one of the most brutal attacks they had suffered since they were granted refuge on that planet. Since they were almost wiped out on the last one they called home. Nomads scattered, unwanted, until they were welcomed on Valerikai, or so we were told. We mourned the fallen. Images of burning settlements, shattered domes, and panicked children filled our screens. The Galactic Assembly condemned the attack unanimously. They said it was a cowardly assault by a rogue militia on a peaceful people. The Valari High Council claimed the attackers had taken hostages, civilians, even children. An outrage. In response, Valerikai launched Operation Hollow Sun, a supposed precision strike to neutralize the insurgent leaders on Chal and retrieve their citizens. The galaxy stood behind them. We offered support, resources, troops, aid convoys. We believed it was a mission of justice. They said the aggressors had taken hostages, killed civilians, and posed an existential threat. They said they had no choice but to retaliate, that they would strike back only at the tyrants, only at the ones who attacked. We believed them. We supported them. We funded them. We armed them. Until the images started coming. At first, just blurry fragments. Villages on Chal, burning. Children running. Women screaming. Fields scorched. Shelters flattened under orbital bombardments. We were told they were military outposts. We were told the screams were faked. We were told it was all strategic necessity. At first, we thought they were isolated incidents. A scorched settlement. A child's body. A bombed-out hospital. Until the satellites picked up the mass graves. They were leveling entire towns. Targeting water sources. Bombing refugee camps. And worse, broadcasting it like sport. Some of their soldiers posted images, smiling beside burned-out shelters, boasting about how many vermin they'd purged. Others shared videos, laughing, of children crying, dying. There were intercepted messages calling the Chali filth, animals, a plague to be cleansed. The Valari High Council denied it all, said it was propaganda, said those weren't their troops. But the dead kept piling up. Galactic NGOs reported that their medical convoys were bombed, that rescue drones were jammed, that starving babies were left to die behind energy blockades. Any attempt to document the genocide was met with silence, or more strikes. That's when whispers began to spread. The narrative began to crack. Neutral observers from the Varellan cluster intercepted secure transmissions. Lines like, Phase 2 complete. Southern sector cleared. No survivors. Civilians mixed with combatants. Proceed anyway. No broadcast. We control the optics. Then came the confession of a whistleblower, a communications officer from Valerikai. He released internal logs, proving the initial attack from Chal wasn't as deadly as claimed. In fact, most of the destruction on Valerikai had come from their own military technology, used to fabricate images of devastation, used to kill their own people, to sell the story. They needed a cause. They needed the galaxy's sympathy. They needed a reason to finally do what they had planned for generations, finish the cleansing they began long ago. Valari history was a taboo since they nearly got exterminated. You were told you just hate them for their beliefs if you dared to question anything, so people just accepted what they were told and stopped asking questions. But now we started to dig up, to see why the tyrannic leaders of Chal decided to attack. We discovered that Chal wasn't just some rogue moon. It was once part of Valerikai, before most of the current inhabitants ever set foot there. Before they were relocated by two galactic powers under the promise of peaceful cohabitation. The indigenous population, the Chari, had lived normally within the planet's nature. Their temples, their aquifers, their lush plateaus, gone, taken, piece by piece. Under the guise of security, the nomads turned rulers of Valerikai imprisoned the Chari on the barren moon, cutting off food, water, and medicine, controlling every incoming and outgoing shipment for decades. Chal became an open-air prison, a slow death sentence delivered over generations. The displacement wasn't peaceful. It was a quiet purge. No one saw it because no one was looking. Until now. Now, with the pretext of a terrorist strike, they returned to finish what they started, to wipe out the last remnants of the people whose land they stole, whose homes they burned, whose history they erased. We watched in silence at first, but then we saw, we understood. The planet's leaders preached that they were the chosen ones, the architect's favored creation. that the rest of us would never understand. That divine right justified anything, even genocide. They called it defense. We call it what it is now, a massacre, a lie. Why didn't anyone stop them? Because the Valari had infiltrated Aviron, the most powerful planet in the Assembly. They whispered in ears, funded campaigns, offered exclusive mineral rights from Valerikai. Their lobby now controlled major arms and trade committees. So even as Avron's people suffered poverty, their leadership sent weapons to Valerikai, insisting it was for defense. Now the galaxy watches in horror as Valari ships vaporize water convoys, as children flee into dust storms, as entire craters on Shal become mass graves. And still the High Council insists, this is self-defense. We are chosen. The Architect smiles upon us. Now their leaders are laughing whenever the Galactic Council tries to stop them, defying the same council that helped them long ago, dismissing it as unimportant. Some other members of the Galactic Council stood with the Valari, even after we saw the atrocious actions of their High Council, only because Valerikai was a strategic place in a region of space dominated by hostile planets. That was their excuse. But after mass protests across the galaxy, even those leaders couldn't stay silent anymore. Now, as I speak, we are still watching the massacre, and can only pray someone will stop them.